Welcome to Fearlyss Unfiltered. I'm your host, Alyssa Olerud, and today I'm sitting down with Rashmi Shah, former immigration attorney turned mindfulness coach, retreat leader, best-selling author, and founder of The Inner Echo. As a working mom of three, she helps people come home to themselves and lead entirely with rooted presence. Today, we're diving into alignment, nervous system regulation, and what conscious leadership really looks like in real life. So let's get into it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Before we hit record just a second ago, you were about to tell me something that I'm really excited to hear about. I wanted to save it for the recording itself about the meaning of your name and how it carries into what you're living in life right now.
It's interesting where there's I think things from your past I think things you've known your entire life about yourself, but those things can take different meaning depending on where you are in life and what your circumstances in, and also what type of reflection you've had on it. And so I've been, I think, a lot more intentional about making sure that my name is said correctly, phonetically. So my name is Rashmi, and most people, they look at the name, will say Rashmi because it's an A, but phonetically it's said as Rushme, Rashmi. And I've been more intentional about trying to make sure that my name is said correctly because I've really grabbed onto the meaning of why my parents gave me that name. And it means a ray of morning sunlight. And it's just really grabbed me in this midlife, place in life where really so much of my work is about trying to be a light for somebody so that they can go on their own self-discovery journey. And it's just so poetic that, my parents named me this, and I've known it my entire life. But at this phase of my life, with this type of work I'm doing, it's taken on a whole new meaning for me and how I show up. And interestingly, also, I have one sister, my older sister, her name is Nisha, and her name means moonlight. And so my parents are very poetic. So we have a moonlight and a morning sunlight, as a pair of sisters, which is awesome. It's like lightness and darkness come together, in all the different ways. That's such an awesome thing now.
I love that so much. And that is so on brand for you.
Yes, it is.
With your sister, does that fit your personalities, like the lightness and the darkness? Did they get that right?
I think, they did. It's interesting where I think that we each give each other what we need in the moment. Yeah. And I think as a pair of sisters too, it's that's a beautiful relationship to have. And it takes on different relationships based on what age we are, what our family situation, environment, and structure and work, situation looks like. And I think when I take a step back and really think about it, it's being each other's sunlight and being each other's moonlight. And moonlight is just as important as sunlight. I think, so much of the work, sometimes people are like, I should just be positive. And it's really not about that. It's not about performing and being positive. You can feel that if it's authentically arises for you, but just, someone saying, I'm going to be positive and everything's going to work out, that's great if you've done the inner work and looked at your moon self, your shadow self, your darkness. And so I've really, really been so thankful for this gesture that my parents created. I'm 43 now, so 43 years ago. And it's interesting how you can really form identities through things you've known your entire life, but it wasn't meant for me at any prior version of me to be relevant, but it's relevant now.
That is so special. And who would have known, right? They hit the nail on the head with that one. That is phenomenal. And I'm so happy that we waited to hit record for you to share that because I'm blown away. And I think it's a good segue into where I initially was planning on starting, because you said it was not relevant to you in earlier phases of your life. In earlier phases of your life, you were a corporate immigration attorney, right? So how long ago did you shift from your attorney career to what you're doing now? And more importantly, what was that shift? Because I imagine it happened inside of you more so than externally.
Yeah. And, the shift, I think also, it's not like a movie where in the movie, the shift happens overnight, there's the moment in the movie, you see the actress, and she like suddenly pivots, the left instead of the right. And I think in real life and in my life, it's been much more gradual. And sometimes the pivot has been more aware, like I've been more aware of it after I've pivoted. I'd be like, oh yeah, that wasn't serving me, as much anymore. And for like my immigration role, the slow, I think, pivot started during COVID. Going into really 2020 on paper and to society, extremely highly successful person. I had, a lovely family. I have 3 amazing kids who are gifts. My youngest going into COVID was about 8, 9 months old. And again, I would still say it in months, not years. So he was a baby. And I was also equity partner at a very successful boutique law firm. I really felt like, okay, well, this is your life is made, right? I'm successful, Triangle Business Journal. I received the 40 Under 40 award during that time as well. COVID happened. And essentially, I think the gift it gave me was just forcing me to slow down, forcing me to be home more and work from home and not have as much of the hustle with the commute and getting everyone out of the house on time every day. And then while I'm at work, being focused on work, but then as soon as the afternoon hits, knowing, okay, my next job starts, which is the afternoon hustle as a mama. And from, the time of, I would say, waking up in the morning to when I close my eyes at night, my life and my day was filled. And so there wasn't a lot of time to say, I wonder if this aligns with me, And I would hear other people say it, and it didn't resonate until I was able to be forced to take a step back. And then what happened was small things that never bothered me because I didn't have the vision for it to bother me and the bandwidth suddenly started being like, okay, do I like this? Do I enjoy this? And with immigration, I loved my clients. That's really what really gave me purpose is the client interaction. I really enjoyed the business development and sales side of practices. And when I look back, I'm like, so I enjoyed all the people aspects of the job. And those were the ones that were my strengths. And so in typical pivots, I tried immigration law and then different hats. So I was a solo practitioner. I tried a big corporate law firm, tried solo again. And really what happened was I had to be really real with myself and say, this has been a lovely 15-year ride and it's given me so much. And I've given back to so many people through it. But if I was to wake up now and choose what I did in the day, I don't know if I would choose this. And with a huge disclaimer that I think being able to think about that question of would I choose my job is coming from an extremely privileged place. So I give myself permission to think outside the boundaries that I've set for myself. And so the pivot from the immigration side came really slowly after many years. And it's about 2.5 years ago where I stopped taking new clients and just started to wind down my practice with the clients that I had and have just kind of been with me for a while. So it's interesting, looking back, it feels like, oh, I just pivoted and went to, things that I think are more suited for who I am today. But it was really a slow burn. And I think I needed to get burned a little on what I wasn't doing well and be really honest about, okay, these are the parts of the job I really like. And these are the parts that really I'm not good at, or if I'm good at it, it's draining my energy. So by the time I get to my kids in the afternoon, I'm starting from a place of depletion. And then it's like you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole while being a present conscious parent, which is incredibly difficult, incredibly difficult. And so I really had to get truthful with myself on who I was, what I enjoy, why I was good at my immigration law job, and what are the points that I really needed that team, the wonderful team around me to support? And what would it be like if I did wake up in the morning and jump out of bed because I loved what I did? And so, we're sitting in 2026. So it's been, about a 5.5 year like pivot to, here us sitting today. But I think those are the best type of pivots. If you don't think about what your resume looks like and the time of what your resume looks like or your LinkedIn profile, you can actually really see more nuance behind how people really focus on those side hustles or earn a new degree in something that's not their forte. And it slowly morphs into what you would call your dream job. And I think it's just so beautiful how it happens, but also just acknowledging it's a really slow burn here. Mm-hmm. It just feels fast from the public standpoint because they just see LinkedIn job experiences. They're not seeing behind the scenes.
Yes, there are so many layers there. And I love that you described it as a slow burn, because that is exactly what I've described my experience as in the past. I gave a presentation once on the pivot from one career to another and how it happened through motherhood. And it sounds like we sort of made some similar conscious decisions. Like you said, on paper, everything was what you imagine it would be, with the 40 under 40, this big prestigious title. I can imagine that is somewhat hard to walk away from, and that the people around you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the people around you might have been like, what the heck are you doing?
Of course.
So there's a difference between being aware that maybe you need a change and then actually taking the step to do said thing or leave a situation and go after what you want. And I almost feel like when you have the awareness, but you're not taking that action, it's like painful. That slow burn becomes a little bit painful. What was that experience like for you? Because as you mentioned, it happened over a couple years, but there was a day and time where you said, okay, I'm done and I'm moving into this. Tell us what that was like.
I think there were multiple experiences, but the one that has kind of really arisen is, it was maybe around the same time, like 2020 to 2022. I had just opened myself up to going to a yoga class. Mm-hmm. So I went to the yoga class and went and sat in the back, trying not to be seen. It was like my first time in a space like that. And I couldn't do much, but it felt like a nice stretch. And at the end, after like Shavasana, everyone's kind of like sitting up now and you're kind of like half asleep and half rested. And the teacher, with your eyes closed and your hand on your heart, says, okay, now with your eyes closed, smile. And I couldn't smile. And the teacher says to the room as a prompt, even if you need to fake it, just smile. And so, you're sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm rested. Your mind is so busy. You're like, I'm rested. And I couldn't smile. And I smiled in like the most grotesque way. When you're like, really don't want to do something, your body doesn't want to do it. Your mind is trying to make your body do it authentically because in your mind and your ego, there's a teacher sitting in front of you with her eyes open, looking at all the rest of the class, like, like in bliss. And you are there and you cannot smile. You cannot force a smile that is authentic. And I could not force a smile that was inauthentic. And that moment of realization, where most people in my life, at that time would always describe me as, Rashmi's really so friendly and she smiles all the time. So there was this complete dichotomy of how I showed up to friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, strangers, and how I could show up for myself in a dark room, in a corner when no one knows me, where the teacher's like, smile. And I'm like, oh my God, why is she asking us to smile? That's what's going on in my head because I couldn't conjure it up. Mm-hmm. And that really was such a pivotal moment for me to say, okay, what's wrong with me? What is happening here? And also, do I have the courage to ask, am I well? And so much of my work now and so much of my coaching and the communities I'm building really come from a place of, are we able to match our courage with our fear? right? Because for most of my life, I have been incredibly courageous for others. I'm a like typical overgiver, but you can move mountains for the people that are yours. But I really couldn't do that for myself. Like I couldn't do that for myself when I'm sitting by myself in a private space. And then I would say like, the working woman mom hustle, which is keep yourself so busy because you do have a lot on your plate. So you're actually able to keep yourself busy enough where you don't have to sit still. And it comes from a place of avoidance. It doesn't come from a place of, oh, I'm just busy. Like I have things on my plate and they're just items to do. They don't drain me. They don't maybe give me energy, like washing the dishes every day, feeding people 3 times a day. I love cooking. But, being the sole provider for nutritious meals for all your children every day, that does not align with my strengths. It just totally doesn't. I like the Friday night, the Saturday night kind of like gourmet meals that you make. But, it's really like understanding, but what if I just cook dinner for my kids Monday through Thursday and it was just cooking dinner for my kids? I don't need anything from it. I don't need also a reciprocation from them to say, thank you, mom, right? I'm not needing them to acknowledge me in any way because I've done my own work to acknowledge myself. And so much of, I think, being able to sit and do the work to smile and do the work to smile authentically when no one is looking. That's really when all of the work in mindfulness matters, is like, who am I and who are you when we're not looking at each other and we're just by ourselves and there's no judgment from the outside. There's no judgment from the inside. And then what do we feel? Mm-hmm. So that one yoga class, I don't even remember where it is, but I remember I was so triggered by that woman just being a lovely light, just asking people to smile within so it pops out without.
This was
and couldn't do it.
You said 2022 this was?
Yeah, this was in 2022. So I had already kind of started my journey of, what if I gave myself permission to pivot careers, what does that look like?
Yeah.
As an immigrant, as a child of immigrants, really the culture is not conducive to like pick your passion. It's really like, let's take care of each other. Let's get education, survive, take care of your loved ones, and get a job where you can financially sustain yourself and go straight. You just go straight. And I did for 15 years. And so much of the work was first giving myself permission to say, do I have permission to pivot by others and myself? And then that yoga class, I'm telling you, Alyssa, just did it. I was just so triggered by the smile. And I think it was so triggering because I like to smile. I'm a smiling person. And so it was just such a blow to me that just this lady who was looking at me, who I was not looking at, asked me to smile. And there's like nothing I could conjure up for her. And at that point, it was for her. It wasn't for me.
I wanted to clarify the year being 2022 because that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a long time, but it's actually a really short amount of time in the grand scheme of things. And I think that just goes to show how much can change both externally and internally within that short amount of time. But like you said, it had been building within you, and it sounds like that was kind of like a final straw moment, so to speak. And I can imagine that for any working mother who listens to this podcast, they have nodded their head this entire time and been able to relate to that feeling of busyness and all of the things and not having time to step back. So again, to what I said earlier, like you can be aware of these things and not take action on them. So what was the first thing you did when you were like, okay, rock bottom, I can't smile, I need to do something about it? What's that first? What's an exercise? Where can we start if we want to face this side of ourselves?
Yeah, I think the first thing I did was I started moving. I just started moving my body. And that is just walking. I just needed to walk because if I thought about my entire day, it was so still. Like I was busy from morning to the evening, but I was busy on a computer if I was at work or walking to the conference room, but I was pretty sedentary in meetings. And then in the morning and the evenings of the weeknights, I was like in the kitchen, near the bathrooms, giving the kids showers, at the bedtime, but it was all, you know, in a small space, right? And just your body has those routine movements. And so what I started doing was just walking outside for like 20 minutes and without an AirPod in, you know? And I'm not talking like walk and talks with a neighbor, like just moving for myself and practicing actually being with myself when I really didn't want to, when I was like, but I could be doing 100 other things, but I'm going to go on this 20-minute walk after I drop my kids off before my day starts. And we'll just see, you know, for months it was really uncomfortable because also you're looking around in the neighborhood and anyone else walking is either on the phone, has the AirPods in, and you know, you're just, you know, you're like bright-eyed, staring at people, looking at the cute dogs, you know, and you have this pull backwards that something's missing here. Like maybe you should be listening to some music or whatever. But there is that pull backwards because the pull was familiar. Like I had gone on walks before. It's just I always had a device or something I was engaged with while I was doing it. And so that was kind of the first thing I did for myself, which is start moving by walking outside, no matter what the weather was. And I didn't have anything that I was distracted by. You know, the first like 5 minutes are always really normal. Like you walk out, you're like, yeah, the trees, the birds, you know, like you're like, yes. And then in the next 5 minutes, you're like, okay, let me look at how much time I have left, you know? And if you keep doing it, your body gets used to having that little bit of time where we're not engaging with someone, with something, with a sort of like music vibration that makes us feel good in the morning, or like a podcast where someone's voice is really soothing to us. And so that's what we're using to soothe us, whether we are actually listening to that person and what the content is. That person's voice is soothing us, you know, for those few minutes. Yeah. So I think that's the first thing I did was I realized so much of the smile of where it was so hidden. And I hadn't allowed those spaces for it to actually just be present and without a structure on it, without something I was engaging with that would then make me smile for it. And just doing those walks with no music, no podcasts, no neighbor, it really helped me work that muscle of I'm okay alone. Like I might be surrounded by people all day, and I was, and I am, but I am completely safe alone. And what would it be like if I started to enjoy my own company where it's not like, oh, I have to go on my 20-minute walk now after a few months of it. It's, oh, I get to like, you know, it's the mindset difference is, oh, I get to go on my 20-minute walk before my hustle starts for the day. And so like a lot of that is just, I think it's so many baby steps to how we can feel better inside. And that's why I think there's no formula to feeling better. But I think there is a shared sense of if I say as like a burned out mom, like I'm really tired today, any other woman who's a working parent who's burnt out can be like, I get it. Because the feeling is the same. Our circumstances and experiences and structures might be different around us, but feeling burnout is feeling burnout. Yeah. It's just a shared space, and it's a shared space of community if we allow it to be.
For sure. I have to tell you, I feel like I just like aced an exam because I am not mindfulness work is not what I do, right? But I do go for 20-minute solo walks every day. There was a while where I would leave my phone at home, and then I was like, this might be a little dangerous, maybe. So like I put my phone in my pocket at least, but I don't let myself touch it. And I enjoy it. Like I have my walk scheduled for when we're done recording this before my next meeting.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Probably look crazy though, let me tell you, because when I am alone with my thoughts, I hear my thoughts. Like I don't know. I have ADHD, and I've been told that, like, if you're not neurodivergent, sometimes it's just quiet. I don't know what that means. Like, there's never a quiet moment in my brain. So when I'm walking, I'm definitely more present, but there's still a lot of thought. And so I'll be like walking around, like talking into my voice while I watch. I'm like, I can't forget this thought. Like, I'm walking around the neighborhood talking like a psychopath because I won't let myself touch my phone. But like some of my biggest downloads for business and some of my biggest like personal revelations have happened on walks that are short and just I take the same path. It's kind of crazy. So I feel very validated that was your suggestion. So now, besides the walk, you're in this new phase of life, right? As a working mom, still very busy, if not busier as your kids get older and you're running your own company and all the things that you're doing. What does alignment look like now? How do you like embody this in your standard day?
Yeah. And, I think sometimes what I was taught or the messaging that was what alignment is was different than what I have experienced it to be now. I think that I used to think that alignment meant you always felt things were good, like you are just living your purpose, and what I've learned, I think the hard way, is alignment means that my body is really calm. And calm doesn't mean happy. And calm doesn't mean like not angry. Calm just means like I know what my default setting is on how my body feels when it is neutral and it's at like default factory setting. And that alignment piece is, if I'm feeling a little out of alignment, it's not because I'm having like a big emotion, both either what we think is positive or what we think is negative. It just means that, okay, my body has allowed myself to understand that I'm feeling angry about whatever news story I just read because, like, I strongly believe in fairness and justice and treating neighbors with kindness and love. And so when I'm having these like feelings that kind of take me off of my center, the awareness of, okay, I'm feeling a little off. And why? And then you're like, you kind of do the work. You do the work quickly in your mind and your heart to be like, because I feel like someone's being unjust towards another. Okay, I think I don't like that. My body does not like that because I want to try to show up and protect somebody. Mm-hmm. Got it. I feel like I'm helpless because I cannot protect that person. Got it. Then it's a step back from that to say, okay, well, what can I do? And it's going through that pathway where I'm aligned at every step because I've allowed my body to feel the emotion. I've allowed my mind to work as a tool for me to understand, okay, I'm feeling this big emotion. Let's figure out why. Like, who am I? What's important to me? And really what puts me off center. And I've used my mind then to really come back to be like, oh, this is important to me. And these are my values. And this is why I can feel like these big feelings. And it's good because let me see what's within my scope and within my power. And some of it, there's an action that can be done. And some of it is just none, right? And understanding that piece. But I think that piece of alignment of living your aligned life is being very okay being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. When I wasn't living an aligned life, I made everyone feel comfortable, including myself. It was all about comfortability. Yeah. Like everyone feel comfortable. And if someone feels uncomfortable, I am going to rise up to the occasion and I'm going to come and fix their problems. And now I think it's okay. I'm okay being uncomfortable. Let's figure out why and figure out what's within my scope and what's not. And then to understand that factory setting of feeling calm is always accessible to me. Always. I can always show up from a place of neutrality and calmness. And then you get to use your mind and your heart as tools to figure out, okay, what are the variances I need in this moment? Do I need to like level up and go full like, mom boss on somebody, Or do I need to make sure that I am not reacting to someone who is trying to make me react to things that are going on in their life that they're trying to have an outlet for? So that awesome. Alignment piece really comes up with, I think, the word comfortable because I used to think alignment meant we're all comfortable. That means we're all good. And I've just learned through my body in the hard way that that's not living a true alive life.
I don't even have any questions. Just keep talking. Like, as someone who lives and breathes social media more than I even want to, right? Because of my career, I see so much content around alignment. And I've never heard anybody say that or phrase it like that. And I think that is like my heart's beating because that's so true. And the example that you gave with like seeing things that are unjust and how your body reacts is also so relevant. And anybody who listens to this is going to be able to relate to that. So it's kind of fascinating just to know that you have power in those moments, even if it doesn't mean you're resolving something or happy about what's happening. You have the power to, as you say, come home to yourself. So that's actually something I wanted to ask you about. Let's move into that. That is a tagline of yours, come home to yourself. Where did that start and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think for a long time, I would hear like self-help leaders and, spiritual leaders as well talk about like, come home to you. I never really understood it. Like, I just did not get it. I'm like, okay, all right, and you're nodding your head. And I'm like, I don't get it. And I was at that place for a long time. And I think that's where like so much of living outwardly, it's all about your actual maybe home, your home environment that you live in, your work environment, what does your commute look like? And what I realized through so much of this work is I really loved seeing women that never really thought of themselves as their own safe space. Their safe space for their emotions, for their well-being, for their ambition. Like, what would it look like if you were just at dinner with yourself and you weren't there for anybody else's purpose? It was just for you. And it's an interesting nuance because once you can do the work and feel like you are your own light and feel that calmness inside, you can feel that home feeling anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how your home is set up. It just doesn't. Because in any environment you walk into, you can just feel like completely yourself. You are not feeling like you have to perform to be within the room that you're entering. I think we talked about this earlier. Like, I take myself out on a date every other month now as like, that's my self-care. Self-care is not bubble baths for me. Self-care is, am I confident in myself and home within myself where I can walk into a restaurant, not sit at the bar, like actually sit at a table that's probably for two.
Ooh, that's brave.
Like, I'm not sitting at a bar. And I used to go to the hostess and I would make a reservation for one. And when I was really trying to figure out how to do this, I'd make a reservation for one, but then I would show up at the restaurant and then I would tell the hostess, but I'm happy to sit at the bar. I'm just one person. I'm just one person. And then they'd be like, sure, right? Because they want to save a table too. So they're like, sure. As I've been really practicing this over the last year, I take a table up. I take a table, and it feels so good. And no one cares there, right? Like, we are like, they're probably going to judge me. I'm sitting by myself. And again, the take up a table really came up so much because I think as women, we worry about the space that we take up, right? And what if I'm like just showing up, I'm taking up a table for two, but then I actually look at, like the waiter or waitress's eyes. I talk to them. I engage with them. I engage with the person filling up my water. I engage with the person who's bussing my tables. My whole life, I've always led with kindness, but being kind and being present with other people and showing them that when you say hello, you actually mean hello in those type of public settings is different. And if you feel like you're at home with yourself wherever you are, so you're just yourself, it really doesn't matter what environment we're in or who's around us. And even sometimes from the parent perspective, depending on the kids and their moods and who got sleep, who's hungry, there is just so much, deviation in the moment. Like, it just depends. And I really had to sit down with myself and been like, okay, I can let my 3 children be the driver of how I feel and then how I show up to them. Or I can just be me and yeah, they'll unsettle me and like all the stuff. And maybe mom will yell a little bit more tomorrow, things like that. But it's really more about me. Mm-hmm. So if my middle schooler says something really middle schooly to me, and then it's more about like, oh, is she being rude or what? Should I be mad? Mm-hmm. It's just like, oh, okay, she's probably feeling something. I didn't do something on time I was supposed to for her. And her environment matters to her in the day. Just like if I'm if I'm in a movie and I'm the lead character, my middle schooler is the lead character of her life, She's not a supplementary character for me, a supporting character. That's a different way to look at your kids. Mm-hmm. It's a very different way. And the only way I've been able to show up with that perspective is because I'm done the work, but I'm doing the work to live with more awareness, more consciously, and to make sure no matter who they are or who they end up being, that like I'm so rooted in how I showed up and who I was that I don't have any regrets. And then they get to take their own path. I'm not micromanaging their path. I'm just showing them mom's mom. And you are your own person. And I tell my kids, and especially my 2 girls who are 12 and 9, that I get to have you until you're 18. I get to. And my job is for you to be a hardworking and kind human. Like, that's it. Yeah. No more, no less. Those are 2 big things. Yeah. Hardworking and kind are really big things. But then there are, birds that fly. Conscious parenting, really, the step back from that is being a conscious person. Because if you're not a conscious person, there's no way we're going to be a conscious parent because there's too many moments that will trigger us every single day that it leads to an impossible situation.
Yeah. I think about this all the time, how intriguing it will be to see this generation of children when they're older, because I feel like this is the first generation of children that have, I don't want to generalize, but overall parenting has changed a lot and the way we approach our kids has changed a lot and the lessons we teach them and all of that. It'll be interesting to see how they are as adults. Yeah. Even with my 3 and 5-year-old, their brothers, 3 and 5, they fight. Like, I don't even know how a 3 and 5-year-old are capable of fighting in the way that these children fight. And it's always like, he made me do it, or da 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 da. And I have to repeat myself over and over again. Nobody can make you do anything. You are responsible for your own choices. If he hits you, that's his choice. If you hit him back, that's your choice. And like, goodness, I hope that that lesson pays off one day, because I sound like a broken record. Yeah.
And you got maybe like 15 more years.
Yeah. It's insane. But you know what? This is probably the easiest thing I'll ever have to teach them. So I am by no means complaining. But I have 2 more things I want to ask you.
Yeah.
For the sake of time, I'm going to stop rambling and get into it. You actually wrote a children's book. Tell us a little bit about that, because as I was rambling about my children, I was like, ooh, I should probably read this book.
So I published a book called I Found My Peace, May 2025. Like, it's always been a dream of mine to write a children's book. I'm very kid-like. Like, I've always been like that. And there's this character that I've been doodling since I was like 6 years old. He kind of looks like an alien, but even looking back and I see my stuff from elementary school, he's on all my journals. You know how you doodle on the side of the page? This little guy named Nezo has always been there. And when I was in the slow burn we talked about earlier, the slow burn pivot, I was like, well, I'm going to write a children's book. And I really approached it really like transactionally at first. I like took a creative writing class. I was kind of stubborn. I knew I wanted to use this little Nezo character. And I'm like, well, it makes sense because I'm an immigrant and an immigration lawyer. It's going to be about immigration, about a kid moving from one place to another. And I was really set on the idea for a long time. And what happened was I ended up writing the manuscript, and I really wasn't jazzed about it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, I've written it. So I guess, is it like a checklist? You know, when you think of like, when I'm like thinking so transactional, and I'm like, okay, I wrote the book. Now let's help get it illustrated. I did the art direction. I knew kind of what I wanted. But I think this is where the alignment piece sometimes comes in, is I wasn't really feeling it. Like it would have just been another thing I did and then moved on. And I had to take a hard look to say, okay, this is really not what I want to publish, because maybe I'll have my mom and dad buy it. But other than that, like no one else will. And I really I was going through my realizing who I was in this moment and doing so much reflection from who I was as a kid. And I'm like, what would have mattered to me then? And what matters to me now? And I wish I was introduced to mindfulness like when I was young. And I'm like, well, what if I do that? What if I can approach mindfulness in a way that's not like in a form of a lecture? What if it just showcases a story like any other kid story I see my kids reading all day, that is colorful, that's whimsy, that doesn't feel like it's a self-help book, on what mindfulness or meditation is, but it's just a story. So whether the kid needs the word meditation or not, it's just a story and it gets filed away somewhere, in the back. And so I wrote this beautiful story about Nezo, who moves from one place to another, and he's really scared about going to the new school in the new place on Monday. And we see him go through emotions. So it really shows from an emotional literacy place that kids are not always happy in books. That's not the normal life. It shows him being disconnected, feeling angry, feeling sad. And most of the books I had when I was young and had researched in this space, especially with the feelings book, there'll be 2 pages out of 20 where the character doesn't feel good. And then 18 pages where they are just feeling amazing. That is just not real life. And I wanted to show what felt like real life to me and what felt like something new when I had a new experience. So I think any kind of change, the book is about the character moving, but change happens in so many ways. Change happens every day for kids, in family structures, in moving from one place to another, teachers moving and leaving, their best friend moving. There's so much change that can happen where they just don't know how to identify it and they don't know how to talk about it. So we watch the character essentially go through a range of emotions and eventually gets to see his mom that's just sitting and meditating and learns how to meditate from her. And it's not, meditation is not a thing that you learn. You just kind of sit and let it happen to you. So the mom basically teaches the character that it's okay to sit with yourself. You can sit with your eyes closed. There's nothing that needs to be done. It's okay that you are talking to yourself as you are sitting still with your eyes closed. And it's okay to be in a new spot like that. And, basically the character does it a couple of days. And by the end of the book, before the character starts the new school, nothing has changed in terms of the new school coming up on Monday or that he feels scared. The fear hasn't gone. But what has changed is the character feels like they have more of a courageous heart towards the change. Mm-hmm. And so he feels eager to start the new school as opposed to feeling that he is debilitated by the change of the new school. And I've been so grateful and blessed that the book has really taken off and gotten, I think, into the hands whoever has needed it so far. So within the first 2 months of it publishing, it hit national bestseller status. So #1 on Barnes & Noble, #2 on Amazon. I'm in the emotional literacy for kids education, and the spirituality, new age meditation, kind of category with the adults. And what was the funnest thing at that point was I would see the Amazon 100 lists and my book was on it. And on one side of the book was the Dalai Lama's book. And on the other side was Michael Singer, Body Keeps the Score. And then there was my little playful, weird little alien guy in the middle. And it really, I think, it just helped me understand that there's a place for storytelling when it comes to meditation, breath work, yoga, all of just tools. They're just tools. Mm-hmm. There's a place for wellness. There's a place for storytelling. And parents are looking for that place for their children. And in turn, the parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles that are reading the book to their kid is also getting exposed to what can mindfulness and meditation look like if it's not just so focused on us running away to a mountain and living in a temple on top of a mountain, and that's how we get calm, or just saying that, okay, meditation is here to help me, help me, help me, and then all you're doing is sitting there and you're telling yourself, help me, help me, help me, to again be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Meditation is just a tool that can be used. And so my goal with the book was just to introduce it and let it be a bridge to a kid not knowing what the word is, to a kid that might be interested, to be asking any grown up in their life, can you tell me more about this? A teacher, a parent, a grandparent, a counselor, whatever it is, can you tell me more about it? Maybe they need it, maybe they don't, but it's just like, when I look back as a kid, I wish I was able to have more exposure to more wellness tools. And that's really where the book kind of came from. But it really was such a personal endeavor because I ended up writing the book that I was scared to. And it wasn't about being an immigration lawyer or all of the hats I was very comfortable with. It was about what was comfortable to me outside of public view. And I've been so grateful for the response, and so grateful for messages that have come through, especially from parents who read the book to their kid, and they love the illustrations and they just connect with something in it, whether it be the emotional literacy side or the meditation side. They just connect with something in it. And so it's been really like a big joy for me to see.
That's awesome. Mother to mother. Thank you for writing that.
You're welcome.
In the Amazon cart, ready to go. My kids, they need it. And maybe I do too. I'm very excited now that I know more about the book. But you said something that I think is a natural segue to my last question for you. We're teaching with the book, we're modeling for children what they can do. And you are very good as well at modeling to adults what they can do. And I know you have a retreat coming up. I want to make sure that this is published to our audience before then so that they can hear a little bit more about it, because from the little I know, I think it's a wonderful tool, a wonderful community you're putting together. And I actually want to hear more about it. So if you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. I'm so jazzed and excited about this. So I'm hosting a retreat called Step into Conscious Living. That's March 13th through 15th, and it's hosted in Boone, North Carolina. And the retreat center that we're at is right off the Blue Ridge Parkway. And that time of the year is very quiet on the Blue Ridge because it's right before spring when all the trees have come out green and the flowers are blooming. It's a really quiet time up there. And what I wanted to provide was a space for people to be able to come out of their day-to-day hustle and be in a community of people that are supportive, that are here just for guidance and to teach tools, and have a place that is completely no judgment. That piece is really important for me. And it's because it doesn't matter who you are, what you're coming with. I wanted the space to be, as soon as you enter our retreat room, whatever is heavy on your shoulders, you have the permission, if you give it to yourself, to put it down. Mm-hmm. And myself and my 3 co-facilitators, we will take care of the rest for you. And when I was really marketed and messaged retreats in my every version I've been, since now, so much of it was about, come to this lovely location and we'll transform you. It was all about, come and we'll transform you and we'll make you feel better, and then you go home. That really never resonated with me. And also because that felt like a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Like when you are energetically depleted and burnt out and you are a working parent, that maybe I can get there and it's like a silo away where you can just be by yourself and feel good, and then you come back to your life. And it never resonated. The message never resonated. Through my work and through my own personal journey, I have created a life for myself that I need no escape from. And I want others to understand that they have the ability to create a life they need no escape from, they need no trip or vacation out of to feel well, that they can have that feeling and integrate it back into their day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. And that is home for them, home within themselves and home within their environment as well. Mm-hmm. And so the advantage of the destination comes from if you are not at that place, sometimes you really need to be away from your space to say, okay, how am I feeling? Like, how is my body feeling? In order to check in with yourself, you need a space that is energetically really open. Mm-hmm. There's no responsibilities. There's no dishes in the kitchen near your Zoom, near your retreat that's going on. It is a fresh space that you have not been in before. And you are allowed to show up in any way. You can talk to people. You cannot talk to people. It really doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. There is a no judgment zone that's created just by the way the 4 facilitators live their life. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to create that type of space. And it was the space I needed, but I wasn't able to really find. And I wasn't really marketed that space. I was marketed, come and transform yourself and then go home and integrate it if you can. Yeah. But, Alyssa, we don't need to transform ourselves. We are whole and complete and beautiful just as we are. Mm-hmm. We just need the space to remember that. And that's what aligns with me. And that's what I wanted to do with the retreat, is give people that space to really remember like how kick-ass they are. Yeah. And that they can do anything. And there's not anything they need outside of themselves to do that. They just need to remember who they are. That felt well to me. And that felt like a space that I wanted to create because I didn't see it.
So for attendees, what would they expect when they get there? Outside of, like you said, the idea that you'll come and be transformed. Yeah. If we're taking a beat from daily life, is there guided exercises, or what's that going to look like for the person who attends?
Yeah, so there's a mix of incorporating movement. Mm-hmm. On my own journey, I found that movement is just as important as stillness. Mm-hmm. And so there is guided movement, there's gentle yoga, there's sound baths, there's breath work, exercises and techniques. There are more facilitated small grouped coaching type of work. And then there is purposely infused free time and nature walks. And this particular retreat center provides 3 nutritious buffet style meals per day. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted a place as the mom where I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning. Like that was really important to me. Yeah. And I'm not in charge of really any of the day-to-day things that normally, of course, as humans, we're in charge of at home. And so really looking at it from a holistic place, I wanted the person to do no work that they currently need to do in their normal life. And the way the 3-day retreat is really planned is energetically helps them rest, helps them then restore once they feel a little rested, and then helps them figure out if you came alive, what would that feel like? And so all of the movement and the guided sessions are curated in a very particular way to give a person the path if they want to go on it. And if a person wants to come and rest and nap in between every session, that's what you do, There's like no judgment or there's no goal for me of what like your experience would be at the retreat, because that's up to you. That's and awesome. I think that's really where a lot of the coaching work comes from, is coaches don't come and give anyone magic tickets, magic solutions to things. What we do is the mindfulness coaches in particular, we create a space that allows that person to feel safe to go on that journey. And we help guide and prompt their own journey, but we are not truth sayers and we're not like quick fix type people. And I think that's where a lot of the coaching work is looked at. Before you sit with a mindfulness coach in a retreat or one-on-one session, so many people just want the answers, want to feel good, want, right away. And it's really not about that. Like lasting wellness and lasting aliveness is not about like, okay, I want to feel good in the next minute, so let's just do it. Mm-hmm. Because that's just not authentic and real. Right. So much of the coaching in the retreat space is just really providing that safe community element where so much of our lives are lived so isolated, and getting together and being bonded again and sharing that like morning light, So much of my work is me doing my own work so that I can show up in a way that feels so bright, for the person on the other end of the table or the Zoom. And it's like a beautiful way to live. And my kids make fun of me all the time for stuff. Because they're like, oh my God, mom's at it again. She's breathing weird upstairs. I'm like, I'm trying something new out. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you if it works.
That's so good. I love that. I have loved our entire conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course. And I want to, before I let you go, where can our listeners find you? How can they get in touch with you?
Sure. So my main two places online are LinkedIn. Rashmi Kumar Shah is my full name. Mm-hmm. And on Instagram, it's at rashmi.k.shah.
Awesome.
And I'm trying to do better about conquering my fear of visibility. So I'm trying to be more online and really provide an authentic space and share my own journey of not only how I got here, but what I do every day so I'm there tomorrow.
Right.
And that's really the important place for me. And so really, y'all can keep me accountable. If I'm shying away from sharing my message of who I am and what I'm doing, that's really not what I want to be at this place in life. And so, we all have things to work on every day. That's what I'm trying to work on. So Instagram and LinkedIn are probably the places that I'm the most active online.
That's lovely. Trying to be. We will link your profiles in the show notes, link the retreat registration as well. And thank you again for joining us. This was lovely.